I mean, let's be honest, that was an epic skid. So, the New Year's special for Doctor Who, and yes, I did get my new sonic screwdriver at Christmas, as I normally do. Apologies for this being a day later than I'd planned. I had some technical difficulties, but it also gives me the chance to kind of throw out a really humongous thank you and note of appreciation because, you know, at the very end of 2018, I kind of put out a little bit of a stronger call to action in terms of the Patreon and the hope that of pushing things in a direction where maybe I can start to at least get this on the trajectory where this is what I do. And you guys have like stepped up to a degree that I did not think was reasonable to expect. And while this is, it's still a ways before this could be my living, like the leap and the faith that you guys showed me in you know, committing to that, whether it was at a $1 level or whatever you ended up doing, that I'm legit touched. All right, enough about me. Let's get to the Doctor. So, yeah. Resolution. So this is where the proper series finale was hiding. Like, I liked this to the point that I'm a little bit annoyed. I'm like, Chibnall, were you just holding your better writing instincts in reserve and letting everyone else shine during the actual series? Like, what the heck? So, while this is by no means an amazing episode and like, oh, best thing ever, I think I mean, if I were to lump it, I know technically it's the first ever New Year's special, which I'm fine with as a premise. But, like, if I were to stack it up against the Christmas specials, easily top 3. Like, it's right up there. Again, to be fair, I tend to not like a lot of the Christmas specials all that much, but I thought this was quite good. And it didn't have a lot of the niggling problems I tend to have with even Chibnall's better episodes. Because, like, you know, I enjoyed The Ghost Monument, but, like, there were things that bugged me. There wasn't really much that bugged me here. This was good. Yeah. Okay. So where do we start with it? Well, first of all, spoilers. Like, I'm not even gonna front. I enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what to tell you. So, yeah, Dalek. I think that was this was a really good way to reintroduce the Daleks, because we haven't had them for a bit. I mean, we have technically had them every series prior to series 11, at least in a one-off scene. You know, series 10 had that weird little tiny divergence with Bill and the Doctor running into them ever so briefly, but we haven't. It doesn't feel like we've had a proper Dalek story in a while, honestly. I would say probably since Into the Dalek, because Magician's Apprentice and Witch's Familiar was more of a Davros story than a Dalek story. I do distinguish between those two. So this was really good, and I think it did what was the best way to kind of reestablish what the Daleks are and why they're scary. Because let us not forget that this series, for a variety of reasons, between the new time slot, new Doctor, all this other stuff, has brought in a whole new bunch of people watching it who may or may not have been watching it previously. So I think totally valid to basically reestablish the Daleks basically from scratch. And I mean, it is very obviously sort of taking a cue from the episode Dalek from series 1 in terms of, look, we're just going to give you one and go, this is why you should be afraid. And while I can't say that this is completely original for choosing to do that approach, it was absolutely the best idea to do, because I don't feel like the Daleks have been properly threatening for a while, but this one is. And there's a number of things about it. First of all, initially when it started, I'm like, this Dalek isn't behaving like a normal Dalek. And I found myself going, I hope that they explain that, but like don't bog us down in explanation. And they explained it in the exact sort of way I like those sorts of things explained, which is we get a line that accounts for it, but we don't stop the story in order to cover all this. Just Recon Scout. Cool. Awesome. Like, honestly, for me at least, that's enough. And it fits because when this sort of thing gets introduced for a very long established, piece of lore like the Daleks, you run the risk of it feeling like, wait, what? And feeling like really retconny. But for me, it fits and it makes sense because we've seen enough about the Daleks over the years, both in New Who and Classic Who, to know that there are sort of different casts and different, sort of placements and roles for the Daleks within the Dalek Society. I mean, we've seen, the Supreme Daleks and the Special Weapons Dalek and the Cult of Skaro. We know that they will specialize in some cases. So by distinguishing this is a specialized kind of Dalek, that to me was enough to roll with the things we see him do that we've not seen them do before. And I also do like the things that we see him do. Like the fact that he treats this woman like a vehicle. I think he actually says, like, I am your pilot. I'm like, okay, that's a little unsettling because of like how immediately dehumanizing that is. And obviously he has no use for her aside from whatever practical function he can get from her. But like just hearing it said that way, it's like, that's a little chilling. Yeah. And, hearing the voice was really cool. I liked the look of sort of the thrown together tank, which was very much looking like a Dalek, but at the same time had a cobbled together feel not dissimilar from the Dr. Sonic Screwdriver, interestingly enough. And sort of another thing that I liked about that is initially I was a little bit disappointed when it showed up in the tank. I'm like, oh, but it was way more interesting when it was, outside of it and kind of doing all this new stuff. But then they had the tank go up against the military and I was like, oh, we're reestablishing how deadly this is. And that was a really well shot sequence because again, we've seen Daleks kill a lot of people, over the years, but this felt like a really good emphasis of just what these things are capable of doing. And again, really good job of establishing how just one is really, really bad news. So all that was really good, and I enjoyed that, top to bottom. As far as the Doctor goes, I mean, like, I'm gonna be more partial to Jodie now than I was through basically the entirety of Series 11. And to reiterate, I've never disliked her, but I didn't quite, it wasn't clicking yet until the very end of episode 10 of Series 11. And, here, now that I'm kind of already on board with her, I found myself enjoying her right off the bat a lot more. And I really am. I am enjoying her at this point. I like a little moments. I like her sort of dipping into a bit more of the Doctor's past. Because while I certainly do appreciate that this Doctor doesn't seem to already know everything and doesn't seem to have already met everybody, it's nice to see her run into more of a, I know what you are. I've got history with you. And it's nice to see her play into that because it does bring something a little bit different out of her performance that we haven't had in the other episodes that she's done up to this point. The other companions, obviously, Ryan kind of gets the big focus. Graham gets a few moments, and Yaz is also there, as has kind of been the case. I liked the archaeological couple. I found myself getting, because they were so cute and kind of endearing, it made me initially nervous in a good way, because I was like, oh, one or both of them is gonna die, and they're cute, and I kind of like them, and kind of played against that because they actually pulled through, and that was nice. That was a nice change of pace. Trying to think what else there is to say. Oh, the touch on Unit. I kind of got a kick out of that. Like that the Doctor goes to Unit, which the Doctor hasn't really done in modern era. The Doctor has encountered Unit, and Unit has looked for the Doctor. But the one time the Doctor goes to them, and they kind of don't exist at the moment, which on the grand scheme I'm kind of okay with as well, because I like the Doctor flying by the seat of her pants and not having this massive support network, outside of the companions. But I like that it was dismantled because of funding, because that also leaves the door open for that issue getting resolved and Unit coming back. So it didn't feel like writing out Unit and be like, and they are gone forever. It was more like, no, this is why we don't have them around right now. I'm like, okay, cool. I can roll with that. And that kind of feeds into sort of what I said about Chibnall overall when I did my series overview, which is that a lot of the broad stroke ideas I've liked. And it came down to a lot of the individual episode writing that I didn't like. Whereas here, finally, the broad ideas I like, and also the actual episode writing is also solid, which is nice. I do want to touch on briefly Ryan's dad, because it's something I'm kind of mixed feelings about. And it's one of those things that I don't think there's anything actually wrong with what's presented, but I've got my own sort of baggage that makes me not enjoy it the way it's meant to be enjoyed. And to put it as simply as I can, I have a distaste for the narrative simplicity that is very common in both television and film, where someone who has basically a very, very, very long history of screwing up or of having done something really bad and then just left it for years and years and years and years and not done anything about that, getting forgiven and redeemed on the back of a single big gesture. And to be fair, that's not entirely what this episode is doing, but there was something about Ryan saying, "I forgive you," in that moment that rang really hollow to me, because I don't think Ryan would have said that under any other circumstances, and I don't think it's just because he was too bitter to say what he felt. I think he genuinely was not ready to forgive him, and the only reason he did is because he thought he was going to die. And the fact that kind of gets played for like the genuine article, that kind of bothers me. And I was worried about this character from the get-go, because there was a line he had when they're in the coffee shop, and he says, "What do you want me to say? Whatever it is, I'll say it." And Ryan's response to that was pretty good, but the instant his dad said that, I'm like, because it just shows such a fundamental misunderstanding of the damage that you've done when you think that there's some magic phrase or some single gesture that you can do that's gonna make it okay. It's like, no, you need to be prepared to spend as much time as you spent getting it wrong. You need to be prepared to have to spend that much time continuously doing it right before you really have any business asking or even implying forgiveness, a desire for forgiveness. And the tendency in narratives to, have it be big gestures, big speeches, the right words, extenuating circumstances, granting people forgiveness is something that I just I'm not gonna say it can never work and that it's never justified. It's just something that I see a lot and doesn't sit right with me. And this is far from the most egregious example of this kind of thing, but it is a thing that happens a lot, and it doesn't sit right with me. So, but honestly, again, I'm not even going to call that a fault of the episode. It's just something that doesn't work for me, given my history and my baggage, because, you know, and it probably, I would be shocked if it bugs other people the way it bugs me all that much, because, you know, other people have their own approaches. Nobody else has got my baggage. That's fine. So, yeah. So I think I'll round it up there. That was my big kind of nitpick, but this was really solid. It was really good, and it was kind of reassuring as well, because while I think I had certainly more nice things to say about Series 11 than some people did, I didn't love Series 11, and it was reassuring to see not only, I feel, a genuinely good episode, really good episode, but the one that was written by the showrunner. That is a little bit reassuring. Now, the big thing for Chibnall with me with future episodes is going to be, you know, consistency. But I will say that having this be the last thing that I see until, God, son of a 2020, before we get more episodes, I feel more comfortable with this being the last thing I see prior to this than Battle of Rethvadibadibov. So, yeah, I enjoyed this. Doctor Who Resolution. What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff you can do because there's buttons and links, including one to the Patreon, which, you know, you guys are blowing me away, and I absolutely appreciate it, and every little bit helps. But there's other links you can check out besides if you want to do that. If you don't want to click on any of them, you know what? That's okay too, because end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.